Just when the season was really starting to heat up and teams were looking to make final pushes before the playoffs begin, the craziest thing that has ever struck the sporting world went down, and now we're all sitting around waiting for it to clear up before games resume. During this hiatus, I will still be uploading regularly to do my best to provide sports content for you guys that are lacking in it in the world right now. And for today's video, we're going to be discussing a player that I've been following for years now, and always knew could break out into a big-time contributor, and lately, he's been proving me right. That player is Christian Wood of the Detroit Pistons, and in this video, we'll be discussing his journey to this point, why teams continuously slept on him and never gave him a real chance until now, and why his production now could be a sign that he has legitimate stardom in his future. Before we start though, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Christian Wood was born and raised in Long Beach, California, and from the first moment he can remember, he's always wanted to be an NBA player. From a very early age, he was always the tallest kid at any gathering, whether it be in his class, amongst his friends, and even in the sports he played. He first tried football according to his mother, but Christian didn't really like it because he felt bad about having to hit the kids that were much smaller than him with all of his force. When he was 8 years old, his mom bought him a basketball hoop, and from that point on, he was sold. From that point on, when he was about 8 years old, that's all we would hear is tap tap tap, she said herself. His high school career at Los Alamitos High School got off to a bit of a rocky start though, because as a freshman, he hadn't yet hit his full growth spurt, and he was a clunky 6'6" player that was also slightly uncoordinated and was still getting used to his length. He and the coaching staff never really got along, he grew frustrated, and after 1 year there, he transferred to Knight High School not too far away. This second year was much better for him. He grew into his body and hit his height of 6'10" with a massive 7'3" wingspan, and it was at this point where he started to get taken seriously as a prospect. After that season, he actually got recruited to play for Findlay Prep, who at the time were a highly regarded high school basketball program, and it was there that he played his last 2 seasons of high school ball. At Findlay Prep, he started to rise in the recruiting rankings and drew a ton of interest at the D1 level, but UNLV was one of the first schools to scout him and show interest, and because of the relationship they built with him early on, Wood committed to play for them without showing much interest anywhere else. When he graduated high school, he was a firm 4-star recruit ranked as high as 36 on one website and at number 71 on ESPN for the class of 2013, so UNLV got a pretty nice addition in him. In his first year there were a few upperclassmen who were ahead of him on the depth chart and had bigger roles because they were more experienced, proven, and ready to compete, but Wood still had a moderate role off the bench that gave him good experience for his first taste of competition at this level. It was in his second season at UNLV that he made a huge leap across the board in his role on the team, his production, and his mentality as a player. He averaged 15.7 points, 10 rebounds, and 2.7 blocks per game, while shooting 50% from the field. His versatility as a big man was incredibly unique at the time, as someone who could play both inside and out at the center position and create a ton of mismatches. So when that season concluded, he was feeling really good about himself and where he stood. He was ready to take the leap to the NBA and fulfill his lifelong dream, because regarding his future, he's never wanted anything else more in life than making it to the league. In fact, in an interview, he said it himself that it never crossed his mind that he would do anything else with his life other than playing in the NBA. Because of this excitement with his dream seemingly right around the corner, he chose to forego his final 2 seasons of college basketball to declare for the draft, which was not an easy decision by any means. His mom actually wanted him to return for at least 1 more season and try to finish his degree, or at least get close enough to the point where he could finish online at a later date, but he was set in his ways and thought he had a legitimate chance to be taken in the first round. Based on the information he received from agents, scouts, and others running workouts for prospects, he went into the draft fully expecting to hear his name called, which now brings us to what was the lowest moment of his career. When the entire first round came and went, he started to get nervous, and by the 39th pick in the second round, reality set in that him not being drafted could be a reality. That's exactly what happened, and on that night, this picture was taken by a reporter and went viral as one of the saddest parts of the entire night, as he looks incredibly crushed. He took some time to recuperate with his family, they did everything they could to console him, and not long after that, he started to use this low point as motivation. His attitude towards the game got even more serious, he started working twice as hard, and he approached the way he practiced with even more intensity. In his own words, he said, "I started running more, I started doing more on-the-court stuff. I was usually just doing shooting drills over the summer, but I really started changing it up, doing a variety of post moves, driving to the basket, and lifting. I would come back late at night with the trainer, and I would work out there for 2 hours or an hour and a half." His thin frame was one of the biggest concerns teams had with him as a player, because at just 216 pounds, he weighed much less than most of the competition he would face at the center position in the league. The weightlifting and focus he put on getting his body in better shape than ever gradually improved himself over time, but it was definitely a process. Luckily, him going undrafted wasn't the end of the road, because he got signed by the Houston Rockets to play with their summer league team. He played well enough there to get signed by the Philadelphia 76ers, who were still in the middle of their notorious rebuild, but even though they were the worst team in the league at the time, he still had to battle for minutes and ended up losing that battle because it just so happened that the team was filled with other bigs such as Jahlil Okafor, Nerlens Noel, and Richaun Holmes, so he ultimately got waived in the middle of the season. His next opportunity came with the Charlotte Hornets that following year, but again, it wasn't much of an opportunity at all, only making 13 appearances in games that season and spending a majority of his time in the G League. The next season, he actually went back to the 76ers system and signed with their G League affiliate, the Delaware Bluecoats, but for the first time in his career, did not make a single appearance in an NBA game. Now, keep in mind that through this whole process, he's been playing exceptionally well in the G League, and every summer league, he's one of the most productive players across the board. But the combination of politics with other players being drafted and given more leeway in rotations, the stigma about his weight, and the fact that he went undrafted meant that he was unfairly going to have to overcome more obstacles than most. His first real opportunity in the NBA came at the end of last season with the New Orleans Pelicans. In 8 games with them, he averaged about 17 points, 8 rebounds, and a block and a half per game in 24 minutes of action. So entering that offseason, he finally had some momentum to carry and tape of his production at this level, and the Pistons gave him an opportunity by signing him. Before the season, the Pistons made headlines by bringing in fan-favorite veteran Joe Johnson to training camp, and virtually everyone expected him to make the final roster, but it was actually none other than Christian Wood who beat him out for the last spot on the team, and from that point on, he hasn't looked back. Throughout most of the season, Wood has served as Andre Drummond's backup center, and he did a damn good job of it, so when the team traded Drummond at the deadline, they knew at least that they had a serviceable short-term replacement for him in the lineup. The thing is, though, that Wood has been much more than just a serviceable replacement since he's been inserted into the starting lineup, and now he's putting himself in a position to not only solidify his spot in the NBA for the foreseeable future, but he may just be a future star in the making. Since the Andre Drummond trade, Wood has played 13 games, and in those games, he's averaging a whopping 23 points and 10 rebounds per game, while shooting the ball 56% from the field and 40% from 3. He legitimately gives you everything you could possibly want from a modern-day big man, and offensively, there really aren't many holes in his game. He excels in both pick-and-roll and pick-and-pop situations because of his elite agility, athleticism, and ability to shoot from the perimeter, and he works incredibly hard on the offensive glass to create second-chance points. Even going beyond the basic box score numbers, every single player on the Pistons has a negative net rating, meaning that the team gets outscored per 100 possessions with every other player on the court. That is, all except for one. Christian Wood is the only player on the roster with a positive net rating at plus 2.2, so when he's on the court, he brings a level of impact that actually involves winning basketball. The Pistons are at the very beginning of their rebuild, and the purpose of a rebuild is to uncover productive talent at a low cost. Wood is still only 24 years old and has more than proved himself all season long, so in my opinion, it would be in the best interest of the team to sign him long term. His numbers speak for itself, he brings a winning attitude and works incredibly hard, and quite simply, he's earned it. It wouldn't surprise me at all to see him become one of the most productive big men in the league one day in a permanent starting role, because his game is so well balanced and perfectly fit for modern basketball. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think of Christian Wood's future as a player. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.